Hello ladies and gents, welcome back to Mr. Michael's channel for extraordinary young people. This is composition writing for the O-Level English Language Exam. This video is part 3 on our series for the O-Level English Language Exam. Paper number 1, composition, focusing upon descriptive writing. There are 2 other videos focusing upon descriptive writing and you should have watched those before you watch this one. The first thing that we will do, as per usual, is we will review some vocabulary that you've previously learnt, and then I will share with you another example of my students' work, which is very, very good. The third thing we will do is we will analyze a new past paper question and we will look at another model paragraph. The fourth thing that we will do is we will look at descriptive writing strategy 3 and you will do some practice. And then number 5, as this is the last video in the series, you will produce a piece of writing. You will complete a past paper writing task. But before we start any of that, here is your starter activity. Can you please write down a synonym or a definition for each of the words on the screen? If you can do that from your memory, that would be better. If you can't, please look it up in a dictionary. Please pause the video and do that now. In 3, 2, 1. I hope you've done that. The first word is impassable. The word impassable, not impossible. Impassable is an adjective. Now you can see that there are 3 syllables in that word, impassable, and we know that the prefix im is similar to the prefix in, which means not. The suffix at the end of the word, able, means the ability to do something, and the middle syllable, pass, means to be able to pass by. So if we put those 3 syllables together, im, meaning not, pass, meaning pass, and able, meaning the ability to do so, it means it is not possible to pass, or it is impossible to travel along or to go over. So if there was a lot of snow, we might say that the road is impassable. We can't travel, we can't pass by that road. The second word is weaponry. Weaponry is a noun, and weaponry is the collective name for weapons, which refers to a group or a collective of weapons. For example, that nation has strong weaponry. And the last word is auspicious. Auspicious is again an adjective, and it means favorable or good luck or good fortune or maybe opportune. An auspicious occasion or an auspicious day is a day that is considered to be favorable or good luck. Now, a little bit of retrieval practice before we move on. What is descriptive writing strategy number 2? Try not to look in your books, try to remember it from your mind. Pause the video now, please. In 3, 2, 1, descriptive writing strategy 2 is show, not tell. Show, not tell. That was in part 2 of the descriptive writing videos. And another piece of retrieval practice. Can you name 2 types of figurative language? Again, don't look in your books. Try to think from your mind, please. Pause the video now, please. 3, 2, 1. Figurative language was included in the first video of the descriptive writing series, and the 2 types that I'm thinking of are metaphors and similes. The great thing about lessons being online is that if you are not sure about those or you can't remember, you can go back and watch the first video again. Now, if you remember in part 2 of the descriptive writing videos, I asked you to produce a short piece of writing in response to this question. This was the past paper question that we used in that lesson. And here I have an answer that was produced by one of my students, which I think is very, very good. And I've highlighted 2 sentences that I want to discuss with you very briefly, which will provide you with a model of excellent descriptive writing. The first sentence says, Paul is a very quiet person. I see him always having his lips pursed together like a zip. What type of figurative language is this? Shout at me, shout at me. Well, I can't hear you, can I? But the answer is a simile because it uses like. Remember that a simile is figurative language which uses as or like to compare 2 things. The second sentence that I want to share with you is at the bottom. He lights up the room like a fire. An excellent simile which creates a very rich image once again with his presence like a gardener sparkling, I think that should be sprinkling, water for the gloomy flowers every morning. Again, very powerful. This image of him bringing happiness to people just like the gardener brings water to the flowers. If the flowers could react to being sprinkled with water, they would be extremely happy. They would feel much better. And therefore, in the same way, when this person enters a room, he lights it up like a fire and he sprinkles water everywhere, giving people life. A really, really strong and very powerful metaphor. Thank you very much to my student, who will go unnamed, for sharing their piece of work with us. Now, here is another past paper question. I'm going to read it to you. Contrast the scene and the atmosphere in a shop that you like to visit and in one you do not like. Remember, you are describing the atmosphere, the surroundings, and the people, not just what is happening. So remember that we're not looking to write a story. That's the one thing that you shouldn't do. There shouldn't be a setting, a conflict, a climax, or a resolution. We're just describing what we see. I've underlined the word contrast because I'm not sure that everyone will understand what that means. The word contrast means to identify the differences. So what are the differences between the shop that you like to visit and the one that you don't like to visit? Underneath, I've put a short summary of the questions: 2 shops, the atmosphere, the surroundings, and the people. What I would like you to do now, please, is pause the video and write down some ideas. You're going to need to write down which 2 shops you are comparing, and then you're going to need to write down a few different details about them, focusing upon the atmosphere, the surroundings, and the people. Can you do that now, please? Pause the video. In 3, 2, 1. Right, I hope that you've completed your planning. Let's have a look at a model answer. This is a paragraph which is in response to the question that you just planned for a moment ago. Please pause the video and read through the model answer. Do that now. 3, 2, 1. Now, I have highlighted 3 sentences here because I want to explore them with you a little bit. The first sentence says, the mini-mart, which is the name of the shop, can only fit 5 or 6 customers inside comfortably. Now, which descriptive writing strategy am I using here? 1 or 2? That's right, I'm using strategy number 2 because I'm showing, not telling. The mini-mart can only fit 5 or 6 customers inside comfortably. Well, what does that mean? What does that show you? It shows you that the shop is very small. So instead of me saying the mini-mart is very small, I said the mini-mart can only fit 5 or 6 customers inside comfortably. This is an example of show, not tell. When you produce your descriptive writing, make sure you include that. Then if you look at the bottom of the paragraph, hence, customers can see their own breath during the winter month. Which strategy is this? Again, this is strategy number 2. When you breathe and you can see your own breath, what does that mean? It means the atmosphere is very cold. The conditions are very cold. So instead of saying the shop is very cold, I said hence customers can see their own breath during the winter months. Show, not tell. And then the final sentence, the door is slightly too small for the door frame, leaving a slim gap through which the wind whistles every time a gust brushes past the shop. Now, this is an example of a new strategy that we're going to learn during today's lesson. Let me explain that to you now. Descriptive writing strategy number 3 is called personification. And personification is giving inanimate objects the characteristics of a person. So we describe things which are not alive as though they were people. And I've provided you with 2 examples there. The first one says the walls shiver. Have you ever been in a building that when you slam the door, it shakes slightly? Now, of course, a building doesn't shiver because to shiver, you have to be cold. It's a physical reaction. But what we've done here is we've described the building, which is inanimate, as though it was a person. This is an example of personification. And the second sentence says, the trees danced in the wind as the breeze continued to push the road signs backwards and forwards, leaving them dizzy. First of all, do trees dance? No, human beings dance. But in the wind, when the wind is blowing, it may look as though the trees are dancing. That's called personification. And the second example of personification says that when the road signs are moving backwards and forwards, they're left dizzy. Now, obviously, a road sign can't be dizzy, but a human being can. And therefore, in order to make our description very what? Very rich, we're going to use these human characteristics to describe inanimate objects. So let's move on to production phase number 1. Your task is to produce 2 sentences using personification to describe the scene and atmosphere in a shop that you do not like to visit. You can use the examples in the previous slide. Please pause the video and do that now. 3, 2, 1. Have you done that? I hope so. Here's another retrieval practice question for you. What is descriptive writing strategy number 1? Please don't look in your books. Try to remember. Pause the video now. In 3, 2, 1. Descriptive writing strategy number 1 is to describe the tiny details. To describe the details that other people might miss when they look at a particular person or a particular scene. And one more retrieval practice question. Can you please define personification? Do not look in your books. Try to remember. Pause the video now, please. 3, 2, 1. Personification is to give human characteristics to inanimate objects. Let's make that even simpler. To describe things which are not alive as though they were people. And so just before we get on to our final writing task, here is a checklist of the different strategies that I want you to use when you are producing descriptive writing. The first one is called figurative language, and that involves metaphors and similes. For more details about that, please look back to part 1 of the descriptive writing videos. The second one is called describe the small details, looking at the minute and tiny details that other people might miss. Again, there is more information about that in part 1 of the descriptive writing videos. And then we have show, not tell. Show, not tell, which was explained in video number 2 of the descriptive writing videos, which means instead of saying something like the teacher was tall, which is telling the reader, you say the teacher towered over his students, which shows quite how tall the teacher was. And the fourth one is called personification, and we've just covered that 2 minutes ago. I hope you haven't forgotten it already. When you are producing a piece of directed writing, let's try to include all of these features. And now it's the big one. This is production phase number 2. I would like you to answer this question. Remember, in the O-Level English Language Paper 1 Part 2, you are going to be expected to write between 350 to 500 words, and you will only be given approximately 45 minutes to complete it. So therefore, it's always good practice to try and time yourself to make sure that you're completing the piece of writing within the allocated time. Try not to use a dictionary, try not to use any resources that you wouldn't be allowed to use in the exam. And remember to use the 4 descriptive writing strategies that we've discussed during the course of these videos. All the best, good luck with that. Please pause the video and do that now. 3, 2, 1, and that's the end of that. Now, the first thing you need to do for your plenary is name all 4 descriptive writing strategies. Don't look in the book, do it from your memory. The second thing that you have to do is describe personification. What is personification? Can you remember? I hope so. And the last one, tell me a synonym for the word auspicious. I hope that this has been useful and helpful to you with your descriptive writing, and thank you for your time. Take care.